Keisha never used to travel much. She was a simple country girl from rural Georgia, raised by her Big Mama after her mother left when she was just 5 years old. Big Mama said her mother went to Atlanta to look for work, but she never came back. So from that day, Big Mama raised Keisha like she was her own child. They lived in a small house where Big Mama planted collard greens, herbs, and 2 rows of okra out back. Every Saturday, Keisha would walk with Big Mama to the farmer's market, helping her sell fresh vegetables and herbal teas to travelers and townspeople. They never had much, but Big Mama always said, "Peace is better than a pocket full of pain." Keisha was now 24, but she had no boyfriend yet. Big Mama always told her to wait on the Lord. But deep inside, Keisha was starting to feel lonely. All her friends in the county had either gone to Atlanta or gotten married. Some even had 2 children already. One Thursday morning, Big Mama sent her to town alone because she was feeling pain in her knee and couldn't walk. So Keisha dressed up in her best dress and cardigan, combed her hair smooth, and walked down to catch the morning bus. The bus was late like always, and the sun was already hot by 8 o'clock. When it finally came, people rushed and packed inside, squeezing together. Keisha got a seat by the window. She was fanning herself with her church bulletin when the door opened again, and a man that made her heart skip 2 beats stepped in. He was tall and brown-skinned, dressed in a sharp black shirt and jeans that fit him just right. His shoes shone like mirrors and he smelled like expensive cologne that Keisha had only smelled in magazine samples. When he stopped to look at her, she forgot how to breathe for a moment. "This seat taken?" he asked, pointing to the spot beside her. Keisha shook her head and shifted, trying not to stare too much. He sat down confidently, pulled out his phone and started scrolling. But after a while he turned to her. "I'm Deshawn. What's your name, beautiful?" She tried to hide her smile. "Keisha. Nice name. You from around here?" She nodded, thinking he would end it there. But he continued talking. His voice was smooth like honey and full of compliments. He told her he was from Atlanta, ran a music promotion business, and just came to the countryside to visit some family. "You ever been to Atlanta before?" he asked. Keisha shook her head. "I don't travel much. I could show you around sometime. Take you somewhere nice. You're too pretty to stay in the country." She smiled shyly as no man had ever talked to her like that before. Deshawn kept chatting with her the whole ride, asking about her life, complimenting how decent and clean she looked, and how he couldn't believe she was single. By the time the bus reached town, Keisha felt like she was floating. He offered to carry her bag and she let him. He even waited while she finished Big Mama's errands. Then he walked her back to the bus stop. Before she boarded, he looked her in the eyes and said, "Look, I can't stop thinking about you. Give me your number." When she got back home, Big Mama was peeling sweet potatoes on the porch. Keisha was still smiling to herself when Big Mama looked up. "What got you smiling like that?" Keisha just shrugged and tried to hide her joy, but Big Mama stared long and hard as if she could see straight through her. After a long pause, she said, "I hope you being careful, child. Not every sweet tongue comes with good intentions." Keisha just brushed it off. Big Mama wouldn't understand. Finally, after all these years of waiting, maybe this was it. Maybe love finally found her. The second time Keisha saw Deshawn was 3 days after that bus ride. He showed up in her county just like he said he would. But still she was shocked. Not many Atlanta men came up there unless they were looking for cheap land or running from trouble. But there he was, leaning on a beautiful white car, dressed in a fine shirt and jeans, looking like one of those men from music videos. Keisha was shy at first, but she liked how he looked at her like she was special, how he held her hand without letting go, and how he walked proudly beside her. Deshawn told her about his house in Buckhead, the new car he wanted to buy, and the many business trips he was planning to Miami. However, when Keisha asked him what exactly his music promotion business involved, he said, We deal with different artists. Sometimes upcoming rappers, sometimes singers. You know how Atlanta is, hustle and grind. Keisha nodded, pretending to understand. She didn't want to ruin the moment. But inside something felt off. Still, she told herself she was overthinking. After all, people in Atlanta lived differently. Maybe that's just how they talk. After an hour of walking and laughing, Deshaun said he would love to meet her big mama properly next time, and that he would also love to take Keisha to Atlanta soon. That evening, Keisha told Big Mama everything. She left out some of the flattery, but she talked about how respectful he seemed and how serious he sounded. Big Mama sighed and looked her dead in the eye. Keisha, look here. I don't know this man, so I can't judge him harshly. But I'm old and my spirit always talks to me. And the spirit ain't accepting him. Keisha looked away. Big Mama always thinks everybody's bad. No, Big Mama shook her head. I just know when a storm's coming before the rain shows up. I ain't trying to stop you, but I'm begging you. Go slow, pray, watch, and listen. Keisha nodded, but inside she had already made up her mind. She was tired of being the girl left behind. Tired of fetching water alone while other girls posted couple photos. And tired of waiting when Deshaun made her feel seen and wanted. However, that same afternoon, as Keisha walked back from the market through the old creek path, she heard a voice. That man don't feel right, child. It was Elder Samuel sitting under his oak tree with his gray beard and worn Bible in his lap. His eyes were closed as if he was listening to the wind itself. Keisha stopped and looked at him. Sir, you talking to me? He opened one eye and nodded slowly. From the first day he stepped foot here, I felt it. Darkness follows him. Women weep over his name. His spirit is all mixed up, and you're too pure to feed that kind of energy. Keisha frowned. But you don't know him. You never even talked to him. Elder Samuel sighed and looked toward the sky. I talk to the Lord, child. And the Lord don't lie. There's something about that man that ain't right. The drums in his chest tell me darkness, and I don't tell you wrong. Keisha was angry by now. People always want to ruin good things. Maybe you're just jealous, 'cause he's successful. Elder Samuel smiled sadly. When you're ready for the truth, come sit under this tree. Keisha quickly walked away. She had never been disrespectful to an elder before, but she was hurt and confused. Why was everyone trying to stop her joy? That night she lay in bed trying to sleep, but she couldn't stop hearing Elder Samuel's voice echoing. He carries darkness with him. For a moment she started wondering, what if? But Deshaun called that night, and with his sweet voice he said, Baby, I miss you. Come to Atlanta. I promise you won't have to suffer no more. So she pushed the doubts aside, closed her eyes and smiled. I trust you, Deshaun. One Sunday afternoon, Deshaun came to visit Keisha again. And this time, as they sat in his car, he pulled out a small box. I can't wait no longer, baby. I'm serious about you. I can't sleep at night. I think about you every minute. Keisha froze. Marriage. So soon. When you know, you know. And I want you safe beside me. No more separation. Keisha's head spun. Marriage this fast. She searched her heart and felt two things. Fear and longing. Fear of the unknown and longing to belong to someone. But the second feeling won. So she agreed. Deshaun said he would sort out everything. It would be a small wedding with just the both of them, her big mama, and two of his close business friends. Then he would take her straight to Atlanta. When Keisha told Big Mama just held her hands tight. Keisha, you sure this is love and not escape? Marriage don't fix emptiness. It just exposes it. Keisha pulled her hands away gently. I'm ready, Big Mama. I'm tired of waiting. Tired of selling vegetables and being alone. Big Mama didn't say another word. But later that night, Keisha heard her crying softly into her pillow. 2 weeks later, the wedding happened in a rented church hall. Keisha wore a beautiful white dress that Deshawn's cousin brought from Atlanta, and her heart beat hard as the few guests clapped when she walked out. But something felt wrong. First of all, none of Deshawn's family came. He said they stopped supporting him since he left the church and started his business. Then the two men who stood beside him never smiled once. They just watched Keisha like hawks, giving each other strange looks. And there was a slim brown-skinned woman in red lipstick and a tight red dress sitting in the corner with her arms folded, looking at Keisha as if she was sizing her up. Keisha's stomach twisted. She looked around for a familiar face, but there was none except Big Mama. The preacher said the vows quickly, and Deshawn barely looked her in the eye when he said, "I do." And when it was time to kiss, he only pressed his lips softly on her cheek, not her mouth. Keisha felt her throat dry up, but everybody clapped. They moved on to cutting the cake and taking pictures. Later that night in the hotel room, Keisha tried to get close. She leaned in, smiling nervously. "Tonight, I'm finally your wife, Deshawn." But he pulled away, saying he was tired. He lay on the bed with his full clothes on, turned his back to her, and fell asleep just like that. Keisha lay on the other side, staring at the ceiling. Something cold crawled under her skin. She blinked her tears away and convinced herself that he was just nervous and tired from the wedding. But around 2 a.m., she had a strange dream. She saw herself standing in a creek dressed in a black wedding gown, and Deshawn was there, but he was holding the hand of the woman in red. They both laughed as the water rose around Keisha and pulled her under. She woke up gasping for air. When she turned, she saw Deshawn still sleeping unbothered. The next day they drove straight to Atlanta. Keisha kept looking out the window, thinking about Big Mama, about Elder Samuel's warning, and about how her wedding night had no joy. Atlanta was loud, fast, and full of things Keisha had never seen before. There were tall buildings that reached the sky, cars honking every second, and people walking fast as if they were chasing something unseen. When Deshawn's car pulled up in front of a gray apartment building in Midtown, Keisha almost held her breath. The place looked fancy, from the gates to the flowers to the water fountain. However, as soon as she stepped inside the apartment, something felt cold. Yes, the place had nice furniture, big flat-screen TV, leather couch, granite kitchen counters, but there were no photos, no warmth, and no sense of human presence. It was dead silent. Deshawn barely talked to her after they moved in. He started leaving early before sunrise, saying he had meetings. He would come back late, sometimes past midnight, with no details or explanations. At first, Keisha ignored the attitude and tried to be a good wife. She would cook meals and decorate the place to make it feel like home. But things began to go downhill. She started feeling tired all the time. Her chest felt tight and her back ached like she carried a heavy load all day, even when she had just woken up. Then her appetite disappeared. She would cook, then push the food around the plate like a child. Her reflection in the mirror started to change too. Her eyes were sinking and her beautiful thick hair started falling out in strands. She went to the clinic down the street to get medication, and the nurse asked if she was pregnant. Keisha shook her head. "My husband hasn't touched me since our wedding night." The nurse looked at her strangely. "You sure you're all right, honey?" She gave her some vitamins, and Keisha walked back home in silence. That evening, Keisha decided to clean under the bed. Her scarf had fallen under there earlier. But when she bent and pointed her phone flashlight there, she saw something wrapped in cloth. She pulled it out slowly and opened it. It was a small wooden box tied with a red ribbon. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside she saw long hair strands tightly bound together with black thread, red candle wax, old coins, and 4 smooth stones that were wet as if they had just been pulled from water. Keisha screamed and dropped the box. "Deshawn, what is this?" Deshawn came from the living room looking annoyed. Why you digging under that bed like a rat? What you doing? She pointed to the box. Explain this. What does this mean? Deshawn looked at it and paused. Then he laughed. You country girls are too superstitious. It's old stuff from my past. Leave it alone. But why do you still have it? Why are there wet stones under your bed? Deshawn's face hardened and his jaw clenched. Keisha, I'm begging you, don't start. Just behave yourself. I have enough stress already. And with that, he took the box and locked it in a drawer. That night Keisha dreamed again. This time she was lying in a coffin made of water. Deshawn was standing above it, pouring more water on her while whispering, I keep my promises. She wasn't chosen for love, just for covering. She woke up crying and choking on nothing. Keisha decided to go to church the following Sunday. She dressed modestly, covered her hair, and walked to a nearby Baptist church she found online. The moment she stepped in, the usher smiled at her and handed her a program. The worship was loud and the preaching was louder, but Keisha sat quietly asking God, Lord, what am I walking into? Please help me. But halfway through the message, her chest started burning and she felt like hundreds of ants were crawling under her skin. She tried to stand up and leave, but her legs gave way and she fell. Ushers rushed to her side immediately. Keisha passed out cold. When she woke up later, she was lying on a bench and a church mother was holding her hand. Child, you're in danger. Somebody married you spiritually before you even reached that altar. You're sleeping in bondage. Keisha stared at her, still scared. My husband. He says he loves me. The woman shook her head. This ain't love. This is manipulation. This man is tied to something deep. Water spirits, blood offerings, covenants. And the worst part is, you don't even know you're not the real bride. You're just there as covering for the real one. Keisha couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. All the dreams, the shadows, and the sickness. It all made sense now. She tried to leave the next day. She moved fast, stuffing clothes into a bag. But just as she zipped the bag, a loud bang echoed in the living room. She ran out and saw Deshawn standing there with wild eyes. Where you going? You think you can just walk out? I didn't sacrifice too much for you to just leave. You belong to me. Keisha stood frozen. His voice didn't sound like his own. It was deeper and hollow. She cried all night. 2 days later, her cousin in Birmingham, the only relative willing to take her in, suffered a sudden stroke. That was when Keisha knew she couldn't just leave. Whatever she had married into had her chained. Things got so bad that Keisha could barely recognize herself. Her once glowing brown skin was now pale and dry. Her cheeks had sunken. Her eyes were dull, and the apartment, even though it was still filled with fine things, now felt like a prison. Deshawn was becoming more unpredictable. Sometimes he was calm and sweet and would bring her takeout or play gospel music and ask her to dance. But other times he would disappear for 3 nights straight, turn off his phone, and return smelling like smoke and strange herbs. When she asked where he went, he would frown and say, I'm out doing business. You wouldn't understand. Just know I'm providing. But Keisha didn't feel provided for. She was no longer sleeping. Her dreams were getting darker. She would see herself chained in water. Sometimes she would hear children calling her name. And every morning she would wake up with her pillow soaked in water she couldn't explain. One night she dreamed of Elder Samuel again. This time he was standing by the creek barefoot, holding a lamp. In the dream he said, If you want the truth, child, face the water. She woke up sweating. Her chest was heavy and her spirit was shaking. That same day, Deshawn left early. He said he had to go handle something in South Georgia, but he was careless. He left his keys on the counter and Keisha saw them. She opened the door and followed him. She hired a local cab driver and asked him to trail Deshawn's car from a distance. The drive was long, almost 2 hours. They passed through back roads until Deshawn's car turned down a narrow dirt road with thick trees on both sides. The driver was uncomfortable at this point. "Miss, I don't like this place. This don't look normal." Keisha nodded. "Just wait here for me." She stepped out and tiptoed behind. The road led to a creek bank that was hidden and looked sacred. She crouched low behind a tree, and what she saw stole the breath from her lungs. Deshawn was standing barefoot in the shallow part of the creek, wearing a white robe with another woman who was tall, light-skinned with long braids and a red scarf around her waist. She stood beside him, also barefoot. Both of them had candles floating in small bowls. An old woman in a red wrap and white dress was speaking in a strange language to them. She held a live chicken in one hand and a bottle of liquor in the other. Keisha's mouth opened in shock. She leaned forward instinctively, not realizing when she stepped on a dry branch. A loud crack came, and Deshawn's head turned sharply. Their eyes locked, and he stared at her as if she was a ghost. "Keisha, you followed me." She backed away in fear. What y'all doing? Who is she? What is this?" The woman in the creek turned slowly. Her eyes were cold and familiar. Instantly, Keisha realized it was the same woman from her wedding day. The woman in red lipstick who never smiled. The same one who had been haunting her dreams. Deshawn stepped out of the creek and walked toward her. "Keisha, you don't understand. You shouldn't be here," she screamed. "Understand what? You married me." But Deshawn shouted back. "You wasn't the real wife. You were the covering, the offering. The only way to make the creek accept the union." Keisha fell to her knees. "So my life, my pain, all this was for a ritual?" He nodded coldly. "The water asked for balance. I had to give it something." Suddenly the old woman started chanting again. The woman in the creek laughed. Candles blew out and wind rose from nowhere. Keisha wasted no time. She ran off without looking back. Even when her shoes fell off, she didn't stop. When she reached the road, she banged on the cab door. "Drive. Driver, please drive." Back in Atlanta, Keisha locked herself in the bathroom and cried until her voice was hoarse. All the pieces fit now. The dreams, the box under the bed, the refusal to consummate their marriage, the woman in red lipstick, and the sickness. She wasn't a wife, she was an exchange. Her soul had been used like currency. Just then her phone rang. It was Big Mama. Keisha broke down on the call. "Big Mama, I made a mistake. I didn't listen. Feel like I'm dying. I feel like I'm already gone." Big Mama cried too. "Come home, child. Come back to where love is still real. I'll prepare your bed. But before you enter this house, go to Elder Samuel. He's waiting for you." Keisha wiped her tears. She had gone to the creek for truth, but now she had to go to the elder for freedom. Keisha didn't let Deshawn know she was leaving. She waited until he had gone again early in the morning. Then quietly, she packed her few things. By noon, she was back in Georgia and went straight to the creek. Elder Samuel was sitting on a rock, meditating with his eyes closed as usual. When he heard her footsteps, he didn't open his eyes. He just said, "I told you, but you never listened." Keisha dropped to her knees in front of him and cried, "I'm sorry, Elder Samuel. I'm sorry I disrespected you. I'm sorry I ignored your warning. But I feel like I'm dying. I feel like I can't leave unless I get free." Elder Samuel finally opened his eyes, and when he looked at her, his expression changed. "They tied you with water rope, married your name to the spirits, used your womb for exchange with dark powers. You never understood, but your spirit became a bridge to feed their dark covenants. You're not crazy. You're just under bondage." Keisha froze. "So I never imagined it all." He shook his head. "No, my child. The spirit world is more real than this one. But don't worry. If you're ready for obedience, Cleansing is possible. But it won't be easy. This kind of bondage requires fire. Keisha nodded. I'm ready. I can't live like this no more. The cleansing began that very night. Elder Samuel sent word to 3 church mothers from another county. Warrior women known for deliverance prayers and spiritual warfare. They came with their own bottles of anointing oil mixed with herbs. For 21 nights, Keisha couldn't sleep on a bed. She slept on mats laid on the floor in Elder Samuel's prayer room. Each night they began with Psalms, Psalm 51, 35, 109 and 91. They rubbed her head with oil, bathed her feet in salt water, and made her vomit out black bile and dirt. One night, she coughed until a small frog jumped out of her mouth. On the 8th night, snakes started showing up outside the house. They were harmless but symbolic. Elder Samuel burned sage and read from Revelation. Then by midnight on the 12th day, Deshaun showed up barefoot with red eyes. He looked as if he hadn't eaten in days. He stood at the gate crying, Keisha, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I swear I'm sorry. My life is messed up. I see fire in my sleep. I haven't slept in days. Keisha wanted to stand, but Elder Samuel blocked her with his walking stick. No. If you touch him, your covenant returns. You're halfway out the cage. Don't look back like Lot's wife. Elder Samuel shouted out to Deshaun, Go back to your creek. Go on. And with that, Deshaun screamed as if something burned him and ran off into the woods. Keisha fell to the ground weeping. By the 18th night, her skin started healing and the dreams stopped. On the last day of the deliverance, she walked into the creek barefoot, led by Elder Samuel and the women, all wearing white. They dipped her gently, and she felt a sharp pain, then release when they pulled her out. She fell on the creek bank, soaked and weak but clean. Clean in spirit and soul. Later that evening, she sat beside the fire with Elder Samuel. The women say I can have children again. They said my womb was damaged. Elder Samuel looked at her calmly. Your barrenness is now your blessing. Not just children. Your testimony will wake others from their slumber. Sometimes you have to die spiritually to rise again as a warrior. 3 weeks after the cleansing, Keisha woke up one morning and sat on the porch with Big Mama, watching the early sunrise. Her body was healing, but deep inside, her heart still ached. She had lost things and was no longer sure about her future. The doctor had confirmed after a scan at the clinic that her womb was no longer functional, as if she had had surgery. Keisha cried like never before. She wasn't angry at God, but she had questions and regrets. I wanted children, Big Mama, she confessed. I wanted the joy I never got as a child. I wanted the family my mother never gave me. Big Mama pulled her close and stroked her hair. I know, baby. But you're still here. And maybe, just maybe, God will use you in another way. You could be a mother to more than just one child. As for Deshaun, he was found 3 weeks later, roaming barefoot along Highway 85, talking to himself. When the police took him to the state hospital, he kept repeating one sentence. The woman in the water. She's laughing. She took my soul. Nobody knew who he was talking about, but Keisha did. It was the woman in red, and she had vanished. Strangely, Keisha didn't feel satisfaction. She only felt sorrow because she knew that people who dig their own graves with their hands would eventually be buried in them. It was only a matter of time. Thank you for listening to this story. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Share this story with your loved ones and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Until I bring another story your way, goodbye.